Did you start a business for freedom, but instead have found yourself trapped, working longer hours than you ever did at a job? Well, it doesn't have to be like that. You can work 4 hours a day whilst still growing your business, no matter how much you have to do. I've done it myself, and I've helped entrepreneurs just like you break free from the chaos, working less, earning more, and finally getting their time back. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do it in this video. Now, whenever I say what I'm about to say, most people will click off. Most people watching this want something easy, they want something quick, which is why it doesn't actually work, okay? So if you want real change, watch this video. If you can't watch a video for 10 minutes without clicking off, well, you're pretty screwed, okay? So with that, I know what you're expecting. A neat little step-by-step system, checklist. Do this, then that formula to shrink your workday overnight. But let's be honest, if some step-by-step YouTube video was the answer, you'd be working less and growing faster already, because there's plenty of them out there. You've tried the productivity hacks. You've followed every 7-figure guru promising this funnel, this system, this framework would finally buy your time back. And yet, here you are, still overworked, still overwhelmed, still wondering why freedom feels further away than ever. And look, of course, productivity hacks have their place. You know, if you don't plan your day, batch your work, and utilize and know how to utilize flow states, well, then you need to learn how to do that. Or if you've a crap business model with no funnel and terrible systems, well, then you need to fix that. These things have their place in you working less, but likely you've heard all these step-by-step solutions before, yet they're not working. And now the problem isn't the steps themselves, okay? Like I said, they have their place, but the real problem is the framework you're running those steps on, because your business is only as strong as the operating system that runs you. And for most entrepreneurs, that system is broken. Because look, here's what nobody tells you about business. Every business, and I mean every single one, is a reflection of the person who built it. Not just in the product you sell, but in the systems you create, the decisions you make, and most dangerously, the bottlenecks that you tolerate. Because you didn't just build a business, you built a pattern of how you work, how you solve problems, how you lead. And whether you realize it or not, that pattern has become your prison. Think about it like this, right? You might think your problem is the market. You might think your customers just, you know, they're not buying what you're selling anymore. You might think it's your content strategy or whatever else, right? But what chose that market? What chose those strategies? You did. Therefore, you are the damn bottleneck. And look, you've been told that hard work is the answer, that long hours are the price of success. And we've all believed it at some point, me too. Like, I've been there, trust me. This is why I create the content that I make, because I've been down that path of working and thinking that's the way to grow, because it feels true. You know, the grind feels productive. The chaos can even feel like momentum, and the 12-hour days feel like proof that you're doing everything you could. But what if I told you that the grind wasn't progress? It's friction. You aren't pushing forward, you're pushing against yourself. You see, most entrepreneurs think their problems are external. They think it's a lead problem, or a team problem, or a marketing problem. But these aren't the real issues. They are just symptoms. The real issue, the thing truly holding you back, is always internal. It is the system behind how you think, how you decide, how you lead, how you work, and how you structure your time. In other words, and this really is a harsh truth, the problem isn't your business, the problem is you. Of course, you know, that sounds really negative and pessimistic, but it's not, okay? Because if you're the problem, think about it, you can fix your flaws, you can strengthen your weaknesses, so don't panic. Because if you are the problem, you are also the solution. Now, essentially, there are 3 systems running beneath everything you do. And if even one of them is broken, your business becomes a treadmill. No matter how fast you run, how far you run, you stay stuck. So let's start with fixing your first operating system. Most entrepreneurs don't realize that their thinking speed is their business speed. And so here's basically what happens. You overanalyze every opportunity because you fear the wrong choice. You second guess every hire because you don't trust anyone to match your standards. And you stall on every big move because you're waiting for a certainty that will never come. So while you're thinking, Your competitors are moving, the market is changing, the opportunity is passing, your self-respect is dwindling, and by the time you finally decide what to do, the opportunity is normally gone. You've missed it. But why does this happen? Well, it's basically because most entrepreneurs, they confuse options with opportunity. They think that having more choices means having more control, and it's a super easy trap to fall into, because it's easy to think that more choices means more flexibility and therefore more control over the direction you go, because instead of only being able to choose between 2 directions, you can choose between 10 or 20 or 100, right? And sure, you know, to some extent that is true, but in business, the more options you have, the slower you move, because instead of having to choose, and this is something really relevant to customer journeys and the amount of options and offers you have for customers to choose, if you have to choose between one option, it's either a yes or no. That means you only have to make really one decision. You either choose yes or choose no. But if you all of a sudden have 2 paths to go down, or 2 offers that you're giving to your clients that they can buy from, they have to choose yes and no on this offer. They have to choose yes or no on this offer. And they also have to choose yes or no between the offers. Which offer do they want to go down? All of a sudden, the customer journey has become much more complex. Therefore, it's slower. Okay, and the same goes for every single decision you make. When you have more paths to go down, your decision making automatically slows down because it's a more complex decision. You move slower because you become trapped in what psychologists call decision paralysis, and what feels like being careful and thinking through your options is actually just killing your momentum. But here's the shift, okay? You don't need more options, you just need better filters, okay? Because if you have better filters, it also makes dealing with more options easier. So the most successful entrepreneurs aren't making more decisions. They're definitely not making slower decisions either, right? They're making fewer decisions, but faster. And the main reason they can do this is because they operate from principles, not guesswork when it comes to decision making. They don't decide what to do next. They essentially decide what's worth doing at all. They create a filter that helps them decide that, and then they run every decision through the filter. And that is why they move faster than everyone else. It's not some magic trait, and you know, sure, some people are better predisposed to making better decisions faster, etc. But everybody can build frameworks that help them make better decisions faster. So if you want to work less but grow faster, one of the most important things you can do is fix your ability to make decisions and also make them faster. The best way to do that is to use frameworks and filters, not guesswork, okay? You want essentially a system for making decisions that you run every decision through so that it's streamlined, faster, consistent, predictable, reliable, and not just random and based on the emotions that you feel in that moment, which are always changing, which are fleeting, which are unreliable. Now, in my last video, I went over one of my favorite decision-making frameworks. So, you know, instead of just rehashing myself in this video, I'll put a link to it in the description below for you to check out. Now, with that, we can now talk about fixing your second operating system. And really, it's to do with time, because let's say you were working with me one-to-one, which, by the way, you can do by clicking the first link in the description below. I'll help you systemize your business and mental performance so you can work less and grow faster than ever. And so if we were working one-to-one and I opened up your calendar right now and we took a look at your time, would we see a business owner, a CEO, an entrepreneur, or would we see a glorified employee? Because here's the uncomfortable truth for so many entrepreneurs, and it's a massive reason why most entrepreneurs never get the freedom that they actually start their business for. Most entrepreneurs don't own their time, their business does. Instead of running their business runs them. Their calendar is like a battlefield, back-to-back calls, endless urgent tasks, fires to put out, then a never-ending to-do list that, quite frankly, you'll never conquer. But yet, despite all that, I suppose, what would you call it, activity, movement, and working in the business, they still feel like they're getting nowhere. Now, why does that happen? Well, really, it's because you've confused filling time with creating value. Now, think about it like this, okay, to make it clear. Time is either something that you spend or it's something that you multiply. Now, obviously, you're not literally multiplying your time, but you can multiply the outcomes from every unit of time you work, therefore, in effect, multiplying your time. And really, it comes down to understanding that the most valuable hours aren't the ones you work in the business, they're the ones you work on your business. But this is actually the issue, okay? Because basically every entrepreneur knows that they need to work on their business, but they get stuck working in it. Most entrepreneurs can't work on their business because they are the business. I see this with so many entrepreneurs I work with, even those earning multiple 7 figures and with a big team, right? They are the sales department, the marketing department, the customer service desk, and the entire operations team, or at least they wear every hat and jump into every single aspect of the business. They're all the departments and all the functions of their business wrapped into one human being. So of course, they have no choice but to work in the business because they're doing everything in the business and they don't have the bandwidth or the time to work on the business. So one of the major shifts that I help all my clients undergo, whether they've got 20 employees, 2 employees, or 0 if they're a solopreneur, is we don't want to manage time, okay? Because if you think about it, we want to get a bit philosophical. You can only manage something that you can control. You can't control time, so you can't manage it, okay? So time management is really a pile of crap. What you can do though is manage how you spend your time. We can redesign the architecture of your time usage. One of the simplest and best ways to do this is by dividing your calendar into 3 types of hours. $10 tasks, which is the likes of, admin work that anyone can do. $100 tasks, which this can really differ depending on the business, but maybe it's core operations. They could eventually delegate, or video editing or something like that. It could, depending on the business, even be client fulfillment. And then $1,000 tasks, which is the high leverage moves that actually scale and grow the business. This is the likes of, building systems, hiring leaders, creating assets that produce revenue without their presence, and again, depending on the business, client fulfillment. Okay, and look, see that there sort of framework? It's not a magic formula, okay? There's no magic formulas that, despite how all these gurus tell you, this is going to change everything. There's no magic formulas, okay? This is simply a framework to help you see the value of all the tasks in your business and therefore prioritize effectively. Because if you assign every task that in your business and that you do, especially that you do, into these 3 categories, you now have the option to not just spend your time, but to actually invest it into the things that move the needle, because you now have a framework and a better perspective of the value of the tasks that you have to do, okay? You can now dedicate more time to the $1,000 hour tasks, the tasks that move the needle and that create outsized returns. If you spend 4 hours doing admin work, you quite literally did not grow the business in any single way. That time was just spent. It was wasted, right? But if you spend 4 hours building systems that remove you from the day-to-day operations, that time was multiplied, because what you spent your time on created outcomes, outputs, results were far more than 4 hours of work. So if you want to work less and grow faster, you need to fix your time system. Now, this can actually get rather complex, okay? And it really depends on you, your system, your calendar, how your team looks, all the rest, okay? There's quite a lot that goes into this, but if you want me to make an entire video on this, on how to fix your time system, let me know in the comments below and I'll happily do that. But one of the first steps to doing that is understanding what wastes your time and what multiplies your time. Okay, so figuring out what grows the business and what is just sucking your time that you don't need to do, or maybe that doesn't even need done at all. And then structuring your day around those tasks that actually multiply your time. Because realistically, business is as simple as figuring out what matters to grow the business, then figuring out your bottlenecks, the limiting factors in the growth, what's holding you back, and then structuring your day around those tasks. Okay, it can be boiled down, that's potentially oversimplified, but you can boil it down to that simple, and if you did that, you would likely have a better business than most entrepreneurs. And now once you sort your time system, that brings us to your 3rd personal operating system. And this one is personal, okay? This is one of the, not necessarily complicated, but one of the systems that entrepreneurs face the most resistance to fixing. This is the system that runs beneath your decisions, that runs beneath your calendar, that runs beneath every single choice you make and every single action you take. It is your true operating system, because the truth is, right, most entrepreneurs are trapped not by their business, but by their beliefs about who they are. And this can go super deep, like incredibly deep. I've made multiple videos in the past around this topic of identity and beliefs, because it is so damn powerful. But in short, for the entrepreneur, here's how it can stop you from actually working less. So when you start your business, you start wearing every hat, okay? You have no choice. You sell the product, you fulfill the product or service, you troubleshoot every problem, And look, in the beginning, that's obviously necessary. You have no other choice but to wear every hat, to do everything. You had to be the operator. But here's the thing about beliefs. You cannot act outside of your beliefs. If you do not believe something is possible, how on earth do you expect to do it? So your actions are always in alignment with the beliefs that you hold. And beliefs, well, they're formed through repeated experience. So if something small happens enough times, or you experience one hugely impactful thing, that can form a belief around that thing. So, you know, the example I always use is maybe as a kid, you heard your parents always arguing about money. And so what that did was create a repeated experience that formed the belief that money is scarce. And so until you remove that belief, you will always act in accordance with it. You will subconsciously, and that's the important part. Most people try to say, oh, I don't have limiting beliefs. I don't, you know, there's no beliefs holding me back. And that's because they don't realize that limiting beliefs make you act subconsciously, okay? Which means you don't even realize you're doing it. So when you have a money scarcity belief, you will shy away subconsciously, shy away from opportunities. You will self-sabotage in sales calls. You will delay your launch. You'll do whatever else, right? Simply to act in accordance with your belief that money is scarce. And so over time, as you wear the hat of doing everything in your business, which of course at one point you had to do, something dangerous happens. You start to believe that being in the middle of everything is what makes you valuable, that you doing everything is the only way to grow, that it's the only thing that works, and that it is essential. But here's the paradox that kills so many businesses. The skills that built your business are the same ones that will bury it. Because the longer you stay the operator, the longer you work in everything, the longer you wear all the hats and grind endless hours, the longer you stay the bottleneck. And if you are the system's bottleneck, if you are the limiting factor of your business, then you are also the ceiling. Now this is partly, actually a large reason why when I work with my clients, a big focus of our business, we pretty much have two different systems. We work on the entrepreneur, we work on the business. When I work on the entrepreneur, it's because everything in your business trickles down from you. If you're the limiting factor, the whole business is limited. So the whole goal of working with the entrepreneur is to expand your capacity, to improve your ability to think, your ability to systemize, execute, and make better decisions in a more efficient and effective way. It improves your strategy, your productivity, your prioritization, so that your capacity increases, and therefore, at the very least, if you are still the bottleneck, your potential is higher, so therefore the limiting factor of the business is higher, and therefore you can grow a bit more, right? But that is where the business side of things come in, because with the whole goal of working with the business is to remove the entrepreneur from being the bottleneck, but still to a certain extent, the entrepreneur is always going to be the bottleneck, which is why working on both is so important. And it's actually where most programs go wrong. Most programs focus solely on like the business, right? And they're not accounting for the fact that the entrepreneur, the person at the very top, is the bottleneck. And so if you don't fix and improve and work on the entrepreneur, the business is always limited, always. So here's one of the hardest but most valuable shifts that you will ever make. You have to stop identifying as a worker, an employee, a grinder, a hustler, and start identifying as a builder, an entrepreneur, a CEO, a business owner, because a business that depends on you isn't a fucking business, okay? It is a job with overhead. And growing your business whilst working less, whilst having freedom, isn't necessarily about working less. It's about building something that grows without you so that you have the option to work less. Now, like I said, I've made plenty of videos on the past on rewiring limiting beliefs and identity because it's such an important concept. So I'm not going to rehash and cramp it into this video. I will leave a link to one of the videos in the description below and you can check it out. But before you watch it, let me ask you this. What if the problem was never your business, but instead it was the operating system you've been running it on? Remember, every single decision, every single action you take in your business is a result of this. It's a result of your mind, of your operating system. So here's the harsh truth. You don't have a time problem. You don't have a team problem. You don't even have a growth problem, okay? Every single problem in your business is because you have a you problem. You're the one who decides what you do with your time, how your team operates, and what strategies you pursue for growth. But the good news is that if you're the problem, you're also the solution. And if you're ready to not just fix your business, but rebuild how you run it, that's what I help entrepreneurs do, because when you upgrade you, the business follows. So if you want to work with me one-to-one for 90 days, you can work less and profit more. Click the first link in the description below, book a call, and I'll see you there. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. See you then.